Go. Gold Derbyites, I'm here again with Amanda Spears, Ted Stevenson, and we have a really special guest. We've got our fearless leader, Tom O'Neill, has joined us. He is the original Gold Derby Outlander fan. He loves this show. Tom, welcome.
Thank you, Rob. And I want to kick us off here by giving you my #1 theory as to why Outlander is the greatest show on television today. Here's my thought, and then I'd love reactions to this or takedowns.
Yeah.
I think the greatest dramas in general, whether it's a book or a film or whatever it is, are about secret empowerment of disenfranchised people. So in other words, you're a little boy and you're surrounded by a world of adults and you feel disempowered. Well, suddenly you can be Harry Potter and you can be a wizard and you can have secret powers, right? If you're a little girl, a disenfranchised person, you can feel that you're Hannah Montana. You're really secretly a rock star, right? And I think one of the geniuses of this show is to say to women, mature women, who feel disenfranchised, I'm sure, in a male-dominated world, that they have secret powers. And what is so cool about the premise, in other words, we have a time traveler woman who goes back in another time, and she has powers of medicine and of knowledge over the people around her, so that she can. And the coolest scenes are when she then fixes this broken bone and shows, you know. That's how the whole series begins, of course, is that she's in Scotland helping these guys, these soldiers' men, and I think if you add that wonderful setup with the fearless, great romanticism of this show, we live in a cynical age where you're not allowed to be too romantic and sappy, right? Critics absolutely crucify sentiment, but if you put out an opera, let's say, you know, like a great Puccini opera, and you want to do it, you have to go over the top screaming. Somebody just doesn't love you; they really, really love you, right? It's like a great boy band song. I don't just love you, baby. I really, really love you. And it's hard to do and hard to do well, but Outlander does it masterfully, masterfully. And then give this whole cast so perfectly appointed and etc. Anyway, what do you guys think of my theory?
I love it. I love it. It never really occurred to me, but that's why it has such a rabid fan base, and many of the fans are women. I always thought it was just because it was so rare to see a show told from a woman's perspective, told through the woman's gaze, like through that prism. It's very rare to see that on TV done well. And this show does that beautifully well, and that's probably why it has struggled with critics, especially over its first season, most of whom are male, who probably didn't quite get it. I mean, and I put myself in that category. I wasn't really into the show in the first season. I've only come around this season, but I think your theory is spot on. I really do.
Ted and I were talking about it earlier today. Ted, you were adding the part which I hadn't thought of, and I just stole your theory about how the fact that she has this foreknowledge is also a sense of empowerment, right?
Yeah, and I love how she has this confidence about her, and you completely believe it because she's from a time where she just knew so much more, and with evidence with some of the newer episodes, you see that she's really had a life experience, and she's been through it, and she can approach all of her situations with like kind of a grace, you know, a classiness, where she knows she doesn't need to get revenge on Leary, you know, and little things like that I think really make her the heroine that you really long for her to be.
Now, as our attendant woman here, Amanda, what's your reaction to all of this?
I always love that for the most part she doesn't need to be rescued. She's capable of rescuing herself. Yeah. She's very smart in that way. But I do like your theory, Tom. It kind of, I think, pinpoints a lot of it, is that she has this knowledge, which is very empowering, but she's also able to take care of herself. No one's running off and rescuing her at every moment. She's usually, for the most part, of course there's been some spots where she's needed some help, but she's able to handle herself pretty well, and I think that's one thing that I like about it. She's not the damsel in distress.
Katriona is such a perfect person to do this. There's something just luminous about this woman, right? Just the way she looks across the Scottish moors, or when her baby died. I mean, what I thought was one of the greatest moments of this very great show, and is when the baby dies. She's in the church. She's holding the dead baby in her arms, and Ron Moore, the creator of this show, had the smarts to let as painful and awkward and horrible as this is, he let it breathe. And the dramatic awkwardness of it was part of the power of that scene. And you could see on her face just this opposite of the radiance when she's in love looking at Jamie or something, that you could see all of the inner pain and thing going on. This woman has this magnetic quality that you just don't see in other stars. She is it.
Yeah, she is. There's something about her, isn't there? Like she's so strikingly beautiful. That's a given, but she is one of the best actors on television at the moment who is able to emote without saying a word. In the Star Chamber, in the episode called Faith, when she's killing, or when she's about to kill, I guess, with the cup, Saint-Germain, and she's really good in the last episode that just aired, where she's telling off Dougal. She's so good at that. So defiant, so beautiful, so vulnerable, and so strong.
No, I know, Tom, you have her in your Emmy predictions, your top 6. Do either of you, Ted or Rob, have her in your nomination?
I'm sure I would hope that I do. If I don't, then I'm sorry. But no, I would absolutely have her there, especially if that episode is her submission, which is cool.
Yeah, we found out from Starz the other day that she is submitting the baby episode, which is so powerful. But also, what's powerful about that episode is like the scene Rob was just mentioning, Poison, where it's hilariously comic, and she gets great range in that whole episode, and it's just so beautifully filmed and deeply felt and well constructed. I think there were some weak episodes this year, particularly the one when they. The one that just aired, where they're constantly drilling the soldiers. It's another scene of drilling the soldiers, and another. We get it already. Move the story along. But that whole episode will be her Emmy submission if she gets in. And here's why I think she'll get in. I think I have to admit, there's a little bit of hopefulness in my, which I try not to do as a pundit. I know better, but I think that when you get nominated for awards, and when you win them. And I don't think necessarily she can win, but I think that she can be nominated because of the rooting factor. That's what's behind every. And if you've got, there are generally about 60 to 75, I forget how many women who are submitted for Best Drama Actress, and you are allowed to, how you fill out your ballot if you're a member of that peer group, is you just check off 6 contenders. You don't rank them. And so if those 6 votes are going to be scattered all over the place. Viola Davis will get her. Taraji Henson will get her. But after the obvious ones, then the other 4 of the 6 votes in that category, I'm probably forgetting some, will go to people who have a strong rooting factor behind them. And I think Katrina has earned that. I'm surprised, in fact, that she didn't get it last season. But I think that the show has had to have an accumulative effect. I think it's had to build, and I hope it's reached the point where it has built.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
My only hesitation with not putting her in is I think Juliana Margulies is coming back, and that it wouldn't surprise me if Michelle Dockery could pull it off too. I'm basically that's the one hesitation I have. If it wasn't either of their last seasons, I probably would bump Michelle Dockery for her, but I'm probably playing it a little too safe.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if the Emmy voters have seen the show. I forgot what date the Starz sent their FYC DVD screener package. I should look up on our thing. Everybody said it late this year. All the networks. There are only like 2 or 3 networks that sent their DVD package to voters prior to like May 10th. So victory. And the advantage will go to the smart networks that mailed before then, and I'm not sure that Starz was one of them. That could be a factor enough right there to decide whether she gets in.
Yeah, I guess it's a matter of taste, obviously, but I don't know. I mean, I wish, I hope that she's amongst the 6, because I think there's a lot of actresses that are playing huge role, or really dramatic roles. Not that hers isn't dramatic, but it's in a different way, because I think she understands the medium in a way where she knows she doesn't have to play up every situation to its core, and she holds it in a very deep way. And I think when you have like characters like Cookie or Viola Davis on How to Get Away with Murder, I think there's a spot for something like that that is she's so strong and she's such a pillar for the show. That's just a different kind of work that I'd love for that to be recognized.
Yeah.
And I would.
Past, like Jane Seymour, Medicine Woman. What the hell was that thing? I'm getting it all wrong. But there have been examples of this kind of thing who've gotten Emmy nominations in the past.
True. It's going to. I don't have a lot of faith in Emmy voters. They've disappointed me on so many occasions. A good example is being The Americans on FX. And I don't know how much they pay attention to Starz. I hope they will. Starz has got a lot of really good content this season. I can think of just a couple of examples in Blunt Talk and The Girlfriend Experience. Outlander, though, has suddenly hit that point where people are aware of it. It's huge online, and surely enough, they would have at least heard of the show, thought about checking it out, and then once you see Katriona in this series, it's just almost indefensible to not nominate her. That's how strongly I feel about her performance on this show.
If they've seen Faith, she's daring them not to pick her because it's amazing. It is completely from start to finish her show. And Tom's right. We get so many different looks at her personality. She's not just crying and weeping the whole episode. She holds court with Saint Germain and Master Raymond and King Louis. It's amazing. I mean, how could you, if you've seen that episode, not want her to be nominated?
Yeah. And I'm going to be very crude here for a moment and just say the unstatable, which is who's filling out these ballots but actors, right? The actors branch. And the actors branch is filled with gay men and women. Who are the people who watch Outlander and love Outlander? Let's be honest here, right? And I think that was my theory of why Eddie Redmayne would win the Screen Actors Guild a year ago. And I was the only expert who said he was going to win. And not only he'd also run a real campaign. He had been out there pumping hands, kissing babies, slapping backs. But I was the only one who predicted, and it was the gay theory that I was using to give him the edge there. But anyway, in this case, I just think that it's. I don't know if the Emmy voters are watching, but and I think the fact that it's a soap opera hurts it a bit. Because look at what happened to Empire last year. She got in, Taraji did, but the show did. So that could hurt it. But watch my interview with Katriona. I haven't posted it yet. Right before the show this season started, I did this really great little sit-down chat with her, and it's actually at the Gold Derby YouTube channel, but I haven't posted an article yet. So you can do a search of the Gold Derby, and you watch her reaction when I call it a soap opera. She gets very upset, and then. Explain why that's a good thing, but no, this is it's rare that you have a show like this that has a cult following. When we do something at Gold Derby, and I'll tell you this kind of inside perspective thing at an award site like Gold Derby. We've been writing about the show a lot, and last year, and everybody knows it's good clickbait. It's got such a frenzied following that. You could just put Outlander in a headline and you'll be besieged with traffic, right? So a lot of our forum posters got very, very nasty to us editors last year and just kept saying, you're only posting all that Outlander stuff because you're trying to get traffic and the rest of it. We said, no, we really think this is a contender. Knock it off. And the fights would break out in our message board over and over and over. And then when the Golden Globes came out and Katriona got in and Sam got in, right, and Tobias got in, but Sam didn't.
Sure.
And then Chris Beecham, our managing editor, called me and goes, we told those four voters it was getting in, and they wouldn't listen to us. Yeah. But it is an awards contender.
It is. I felt so vindicated after that. I was like, see, you can all just fuck off. We were right. And it just felt really good. We know what we're talking about. We've been doing this for a very long time, okay? So listen to us, for God's sake. While we're here, let's talk about the 2 episodes that we haven't recapped yet briefly if we have to. Episode 8, The Fox's Lair, was directed by Mike Barker, written by Anne Kenny. We're back in the Highlands. I noticed the opening credits were back to being in English. Those opening credits, by the way, are amazing. Love them. The colour palette is different. There's a lot of bright emerald and green, a lot of ash, a lot of browns. We're out of Paris. We've moved on from Paris. But let's be honest, it wasn't the strongest episode of the season. So give us your reactions, guys. What did you think of the Fox's Lair?
Yeah, you guys go first. Who wants to jump in?
It was basically... sorry.
No, you go ahead. Go for it.
It was basically back to earth tones, just a history of Jamie's lineage, basically. It was kind of just weird. I thought the cutest thing was Fergus riding that donkey like he's going to... I'm ready, my lord. He's adorable. But, yeah, back to earth tones. No more fancy dresses. No more fancy sets. Here we go again. But basically just met Jamie's grandfather, and that was about it.
I was happy to see her get to see Leary again and really give her piece of her mind after that witch trial. That was very fulfilling, and then for her later to be so forgiving and, again, so classy, and she knows because of her knowledge and her history of life that she doesn't need to cut people down to be a strong person, which is so wonderful and so profound. And I thought it was interesting that initially you think maybe his grandfather's going to be on his side, but then his uncle is the one who has his best interest in mind when you see that his grandfather's really, kind of trying to take advantage of him and trying to get whatever he can steal in a way.
Okay, well, let me bitch about the episode. Here's what really fried my beans is all of that's fine. There was not much action in it, and it kind of moves slowly. But what bothers me about this episode is how all of a sudden you expect me as a fan and a viewer to accept the fact that they've just been in France doing everything they can to stop Bonnie Prince Charlie from coming over here and doing this, and all of a sudden, well, just because Charlie sent out this little memo to the Highland lords that Jamie is now on his side and it's forged, then Jamie and Claire just go, okay, and then there should have been more of a struggle of their acceptance of this before they did, and I was just throwing pillows at the TV screen going, come on, no, and now, of course, they're just rooting him on, and I think they, anyway, that's, as a passionate fan, I say this with great love, that didn't work.
That's fair enough.
No, you're not wrong.
And to be on their side, just to play devil's advocate, it's always going to be a little hard to keep momentum going when you've had such a huge episode like we did with Faith. Yeah. There's always going to be a little bit of a letdown the next episode, and that's for most series. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where some of the disappointment comes from. But I agree with Tom. They're just kind of like, okay, I guess we're fighting. Maybe we can win this war now.
Yeah, let's give it a go. Look, there was a couple of positives from the episode. When Jamie was cradling that baby, his niece, I assume, that was really well done. Claire is looking at him from the balcony. I thought, actually, if Sam Heughan is nominated for an Emmy, and it's maybe not likely because it's a very, very competitive category to break into, this could be maybe one of his episodes. He's in it a lot. He does that really good old school Scottish accent. That's not how he talks in real life. He is magnetic to watch, so it is somewhat good for him. And I always have this joke when I'm watching it with my wife, and we should have wine or scotch and have a drinking game, because whenever he rips his shirt off and we have to see the bare chest, it's like, here we go again, drink. It's like, it's not a bodice ripper, it's a shirt ripper, because it's from...
Did you notice in the mirror when they were having sex that you couldn't see the whipping marks on his back? Like they're...
Yes.
I noticed that.
Anyone else?
They didn't bother. So, anyway.
Like, he's never been cuter than holding that baby. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Coming off losing his baby, he also lost a child. It wasn't just Claire. You've got to think about the dads. Dads unite. And he was able to hold this baby and think about what he was missing out on. And it was a really touching scene. It was the highlight of a weaker episode for me. I agree. It was weaker than the others. So let's move on then, perhaps, to episode 9, Suis Prest. That was directed by Philip John and written by Matthew B. Roberts. Matthew B. Roberts has written a few episodes this season. He's one of their best writers. This one was better. But again, there was a few parts of it that were either repetitive or we just wanted to maybe move the story forward faster than what it was doing. At least Murtagh is back. As everybody knows, he's one of my favourite characters. I love him.
And love Murtagh.
We love Murtagh. A bunch of the other lads from season 1 were back as well, including Jamie's Uncle Dougal. Who else wants to give me their recap of what they thought of episode 9?
You guys go.
If she didn't have faith, I would say this would be a pretty decent submission for Katriona. But she has faith. If that episode didn't exist, then with the PTSD and the World War II flashbacks, it wouldn't be bad. She, again, proves every week why she is the star of the show. And her parts were the best parts, again, of this episode. It was nice to see the reunion from some of the season 1 guys, but the training montages just seem to go on forever.
Yeah, there was a lot of training. I loved how with her PTSD they drew this parallel about war, and how it's like very much it has always been the same, or in a way. And I love the part where she's checking out his feet in the tent, and she's telling him, "Oh, you got to be careful." And then she wants to look at the other one. He doesn't let her, and she kind of sees they are the same to her. And I kind of felt this moment of how, to her in that moment, she kind of sees how men have kind of been just tromping all over women and not believing what a woman would have to say for years and years and years. And I thought that was very powerful. Along with, all the elements that went along with the PTSD and how she falls apart in the end, obviously, because I would think that would be a lot for someone going through that twice in very different circumstances.
And I loved how they did the PSTD stuff. Or PTS, post-traumatic stress disorder. I loved all the flashbacks. I thought it was very well handled and beautifully filmed and set up and choreographed and very powerful. I missed that. If I had one complaint about the show, I wish they would go back and forth in time more. And when they do, it's always so great. If you go back to the 40s with Frank, or they're doing these flash forwards now to the baby, which I find very jolting. I'm not sure maybe they could be handled better. It'll make more sense, of course, when we get to the future. They're kind of fun to see now, but they last like 10 seconds and then they're gone and they're out of context. That's okay. Look, the whole show is so brilliant that these things are a little awkward, but that's fine. But the time shifts now in this particular episode that were very, very well handled and great emotional explosions from the characters when the rest of the storyline is kind of plotting forward as the soldiers march and march and march.
Yeah, and march again. She knows that a lot of these men are going to be killed. She's seen it before. It's the futility of war. It's the endless repeat cycle of history. And it's her empathy for these men as well, which I thought came through beautifully. Again, through Katrina's face. There's something just about her. She delivered the writing of that episode perfectly. And I guess the other thing I really loved, by the way, those military exercises were a little bit tedious, but it was a good example of Bear McCreary's score. That's when the score was at its loudest. He's a very, very good composer, and the compositions that he does for this show are amazing. But my favourite scene is when Claire rips Dougal a new one and calls him a narcissist and then says, "Fuck yourself." I loved it. I want to get that snippet. I want to play it to people that I don't like. I want to meme it on the internet. I want to do lots of stuff. I thought it was the highlight of the episode for me. I love it when she just gets really into someone's face. It's so good. I love her defiance.
Yeah, I forgot to mention.
Women weren't allowed to do it back then.
Right.
That's a modern woman just saying that. But even in the 1940s, a woman couldn't say that. But nothing stops Claire.
I did love the spy trick foreplay for that English guy.
The boy.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah, she's like, wait, how far does this have to go? Okay. Yeah, it was like, yeah, very like oddly funny, and then they're like, oh, he's like, oh, I'll tell you, and you're like, oh, good, thank God.
He kisses her one more time, and she looks at him like, can you please just end this now?
We're done here. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's wrap up. What are your final thoughts? We've got episode 10 coming up next week. We have a few more episodes to go until the season wraps up, and people will be in mourning when Outlander finally finishes in a few weeks' time, right?
I will be, that's for sure. But no, it's great. It's a lot is happening. The story's moving along, and we know where this is heading. It's heading to that Battle of Clonarnon. I'm mispronouncing it. And poor Jamie is ill-starred. The question is, and it's not resolved, and I don't read the book, so I know those of you listening to us or watching us who know the books know this, but newcomers like me don't. Can they really change time? Is it in their power? And we're going to, as much as we know that Jamie's doomed, and he is, just because we just know that's the way that the mood of the story is. That's the arc of this great romance. But you know, for example, one of the unresolved questions for me is looking back at their time in France was they changed a lot of things, especially with those characters involved with who are the ancestors of Frank. You know, did they stop Frank from being born? Or is that even possible? We don't know, and what their powers are. It's kind of fun. What are the rules of time travel? Like if you watch Doctor Who, they have certain rules, and so there's a lot of fun to still discover in this show moving forward.
Yeah, and I know that's why they split up the how we're getting just snippets of her life in America, because in the books it's much longer and you learn a lot more. So for the sake of the mystery of the show, it's nice that they are breaking it up so that we still don't know a whole lot, and I love that about it.
Yeah, these episodes are ramping up to other things, so it's always just tough. You kind of have to, with any series, just kind of get through these and know that something big's coming. Maybe we'll see why and how she finally went back to the 40s.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. And also just from the perspective of an awards nut like the rest of us are, I'm just looking forward to more performances that I can rave about to my friends and family. I want to see more of Tobias Menzies. I really miss him. And yeah, let's reconvene Outlander Club next time and talk about episode 10 and going forward. We've got a lot to look forward to. Thank you everyone for your time. Stick with Gold Derby. We are Outlander all over the place on this site. We love the show. We recognise its awards potential. Stick with us and we'll see you next week.